All right, boys and girls, the New York Jets lose to the Los Angeles Rams, 9-19, in a game that, I'll be honest, I didn't hate overall. I think the Jets started out hot. Obviously, the 99-yard drive at the beginning of the game to go all the way down, score a touchdown with Davante Adams was like chef's kiss of beauty. And then after that, it was kind of like middle of the pack. They went for it on a bunch of fourth downs. I like the aggressiveness at this point in the season. Kicker missing a ton of kicks. Extra point missed. What would have made it a one-score game at the end there was a 45-yard field goal missed. Really rough to see that. But at the same time, I'm not going to get all banged up over a loss. I felt like Rodgers looked pretty good for the most part today. I thought Davante looked really good. Now, the big concerning news coming out of today is going to be Olu Fashanu and his foot injury. Where does he stack up with this injury, and how does it impact him the remainder of the season? I'm cool if they just want to shut him down for the rest of the season and make sure he's ready for next year. It does not really matter to me the rest of the way out here. As far as the rest of the game goes, I think the one thing that really got me kind of irritated was it felt like Rodgers was deliberately trying to get Davante Adams to catch that 500 ball. And I think we left meat on the bone because of that. Not that that's like a huge gripe overall, but I think if you're trying to win the game, you're probably trying to hit whoever's open or maybe scheme for particular situations. Now, I'd have to go back and look at the tape to really nitpick too much, but just from a layman's terms, looking out on it, it looked like we were force-feeding Davante. Aaron Rodgers finishes the day 28 of 42, 256 yards and a touchdown. Breece Hall leads the way in terms of rushing, 14 carries, 52 yards. That's 3.7 yards a carry. Davante Adams leads the way for the receivers, 7 receptions, 68 yards, touchdown. Garrett Wilson comes in at 6 receptions, 54 yards. Tyler Conklin had himself a pretty nice day, 5 receptions for 59 yards overall. Breece Hall did add another 5 receptions for 38 yards. So in total, he had 90 yards on the day. Nice little day for him as well. Some questionable calls, obviously. I thought going for it on fourth down in your territory is one of those moves that you just make as a 3-win team or 4-win team, and you just say, oh, screw it. Let's just see if we can get it. Like, what's going to happen? We lose out on the playoffs? We've already lost out on the playoffs. So I have no issue with that. I have more issue with the play call. Like, you got Braylon Allen, who's like 6'2", 240 pounds, and you run Breece Hall up the middle, who's like clearly smaller than Braylon Allen. So that part doesn't really make a whole heck of a lot of sense to me. But overall, I have liked how the Jets have handled themselves through the final few weeks of the season. We got to see, obviously, since the bye week, the Seahawks, the Jaguars, the Dolphins, and now the Rams. I thought the Jets played them pretty competitively. You kick a field goal. Look, you make the extra point, that's 10. You make that field goal at the end, that's 13. You don't go for it on fourth down when you're like inside the 20 and you wind up kicking that field goal. Now you're talking 16-19. And it's really not all that bad. Even if the Rams didn't miss that extra point, 16-20, very competitive game from our New York Jets overall. Obviously, a lot of things to clean up. Defensively, we had a few guys go out. I believe they lost. Who was it? Oliver Sauce went out at some point. I believe it was a hamstring. We had no Quinnen Williams today. So very much a B squad kind of defense. You did have Reed out there. Quincy was out there, Will McDonald, those boys, but definitely a little bit rough from the overall standpoint of defensive play. Not a lot of stopping of the run, if you will. It's kind of a consistent trend that we're seeing for our team. I've got Ulbricht's press conference coming up right now, so let's pull over to Ulbricht's press conference and we'll talk a little bit more. I want to get your guys' thoughts in the chat as well.
Tony Adams had the ankle, did not return. He could have came back in an emergency role there at the end. Sauce with the hamstring, he gave it a try and ultimately didn't finish, and then Olu with the foot. Beyond that, I'll take questions with you guys.
Can you provide a little bit more on Olu? That didn't look
Yeah, we'll get more information as we get some scans and a deeper look at it. He was in some pain for sure.
Is there any worry there with Achilles? And if what's wise, is there any worry with Achilles or anything like that, or is it strictly?
I think it's too early to speculate any of that. They gotta take a look at it.
Rick, could you take us to the decision, the fourth down decision at your own 33?
Right.
And early on, why you decided to go fourth down?
Yeah. For one, their offense was being very efficient at that point, and our offense was being very efficient as well. And we were maintaining drives. We were moving the ball. We were converting on third and fourth there for a while. So just wanted to stay aggressive. Keep the ball in our offense's hands.
Same question on the opposite end of the field on the 4th and 4. Why not just take the field goal instead of going for the 4th and 4?
Well, if we'd lost some yards, I would have definitely taken the field goal. But again, I wanted to stay aggressive, on their side of the on their side of the field, and we wanted to go for it. We felt good about the play that we had called. Aaron felt good about it as well. So we thought that was the best decision at the time.
Garrett Wilson had just 3 targets with that play. There was 8 minutes left in the game, and then he had a few on the final drive. But why was he not targeted much early on there?
Well, we'll see. We'll go into the tape and definitely have some answers for you tomorrow.
Fourth down at the 13. Rick, is there an argument to be? I think it was a 14-play drive. You guys had held the ball a long time. Just come away with some points there to come away feeling good after that drive rather than an empty feeling after a long drive.
Yeah. Hindsight's 20/20, always. But I really felt at that point that we were so efficient and we were doing such a good job on 3rd and 4th down that it was the right thing to do at that point, and we had some momentum, and I felt like their defense was on their heels a little bit and obviously fatigued after a long drive, and I thought we could finish the drive, and I was looking for a touchdown.
So despite the outcome, what are some positives you can take away from today's game going into next week?
Yeah, not to sound redundant, but this group, they absolutely have no quit in them. They are fighting. Every single human being in that locker room should be proud of their effort. Now, did we get it done? No, so it's not good enough, But ultimately, that locker room is staying together, and they're finishing.
When Aaron went into the injury tent, was there some concern that he might not be able to finish?
Oh, yeah, there's always that, especially when they go into the tent. But again, he demonstrates how tough he is, to go out there and finish, and he's such an amazing teammate in that way because of his obligation that he feels to his teammates, and he finished the game for us.
One of the old tenets of football, right? Is a cold weather day lends itself to the running game. I think you guys had 44 dropbacks and 20 rushes. It just feels completely unbalanced on a day like today. Why was that?
Yeah, and some of those are called runs that he just sees, heavy boxes, and he rips the run alerts and the RPO stuff. So there would have been definitely more runs had we done that. But again, we'll look at it. I'll say this, though, that especially that first half, we were very efficient, offensively moving the ball. So, but as always, we'll take a hard look at what we did, what we can do better.
Why do you think you guys did move the ball? And then I don't think you punted once, but 9 points. Why do you think you just weren't able to get the ball in the end zone?
Yeah, we didn't get it done in the red zone. So we'll take a look at that and got to fix it. Have to, especially when we're that efficient throughout the field.
A couple more. How did you think the offensive line played today?
I felt like they protected him. Absolutely. They're bringing a lot of pressure. That's the one thing about the Rams defense. Lots of fronts, lots of pressures, lots of multiplicity. And I thought our offensive line did a good job.
Fumble, I'm not sure if you had the chance to watch it on the tablet.
I didn't. No.
You probably don't know when it went on there.
No, I'll take a good look at it.
What did you think the fumble did in terms of momentum? Just that the Rams converting and just being able to get anything going after that.
Yeah, those plays are always momentum turners, but at the same time, our defense, we got to step up in those moments of adversity, and we got to flip the momentum to ours. So. Not good enough by any of us in that moment.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
All right, so I'll go back to Rodgers' presser when that becomes available. We'll talk to the chat, get some thoughts, topics that I have queued up. Fashanu's injury, run it back with Rodgers and Davante. Vrabel is interested in the New York Jets, and the Jets seen as a desirable location for GMs and head coaches due to the how the Jets give those guys time to try and develop what they can. Boys and girls, this stream is brought to you by BetUS. And got to get my BetUS thing up here. Let's do this again. Go back here. All right, boys and girls, this stream is brought to you by BetUS. Get 150% bonus on your first deposit up to $2,000 with code YouTube150. Jets wind up falling to the Rams. That means the Jets have the Bills and Dolphins, 2 division rivals coming up. How many games do you think the Jets win of this schedule? Jets wound up with the win versus the Jaguars. I do think the Jets get the win against Miami the final week of the season. The Bills needing a win to try and stay in that first place conversation, try to get that 1 seed. And I think they're probably a little too hot to handle for our New York Jets, especially since our defense has been a little bit of Swiss cheese. But if you guys want to head over to BetUS, play along. Get 150% bonus match on your first deposit up to $2,000. We got Jet Engine coming in. What's up, Jet Engine? It says the entire complexion of the game changed when number 500 got a B to Tay. And as that became more evident and conspicuous, the entire team's energy started going to shit. Bro, 8 is a cancer. So I agree with the 500 touchdown was getting force-fed to Davante. I have to see how many targets he wound up eventually getting, but I think that's what Hughes was trying to allude to on the, Garrett Wilson didn't see a whole lot of targets early on. Like he had 3, I think, on the final drive. Like, why so few targets? And the answer, I think, if we're being truthful, is I wanted Davante to get that 500 touchdown. And I think the Jets probably ended up leaving some kind of points on the board or on the field or even first downs on the field because he's trying to force feed it to Davante. Do I think he's a cancer? Not necessarily. And look, in a season that's just such shit overall across the board from just win after, loss after loss after loss, for us to kind of nitpick so much on like this particular instance, I think it's not professional from the Jets and from Aaron Rodgers because you want to try and win each game. And I think you want to try and put everyone in position to try and win that game. And obviously force feeding it to Davante is, I don't know if immature is the right line of thinking, but just really irritating nonetheless. So I agree with you, Jet Engine. He also says Puka, 3rd down conversion, got 3 replay looks on CBS. They never went back to the Hall 4th. Tells me everything I need to know about the spot. Yeah, I feel like the run up the middle by Brees, what was that on 3rd down? Or no, it was the Hall 4th when he twisted back. I thought he had it. I was shocked where they placed the ball, but I don't know if you could necessarily, if I'm thinking of the right play, put the ball where they didn't already place it, if that makes sense. You have to have enough visual evidence to overturn it. I'm not sure, unless I'm thinking of the wrong one. I might be thinking of the wrong one. Rodimus says, I hate this fan base. I don't know why. We're lovely. Will says, because it fucking damn always works. And he always works. He was always going to Davante there. I agree. Kev says, all coaches need to go on unemployment line. Just awful. Yeah, look, they're all going to be gone after this. I do wonder if Vrabel being the target, if that impacts the Downing, Carter, Dews portion of this staff, especially since Rodgers is here. If they feel like they want to run it back, maybe not learning an entire new offense isn't the worst thing. So we'll see. Wild Wave says, what pissed me off was that Rodgers tried to force feed Adams number 500. He doesn't care about winning. Garrett should have had over 100 yards again. Prayers up for Olu. Yeah, I think the biggest irk for me this game is Rodgers trying to get that 500 ball to Davante, and it probably pissing Garrett off. I'd love to see what his post-game sort of presser comments are. But I'd imagine, the rest of the team's got to be kind of frustrated. That relationship between Davante and Rodgers is some degree of a problem, I think. JD says, is it Rodgers' fault that this team has 30 drop passes? This team has much bigger issues than Rodgers. I do. I think the personality of Rodgers can be hit or miss. I think there's definitely the hope of being able to overcome any opponent when your quarterback is Aaron Rodgers. But there's also that man, he doesn't really take responsibility of a whole lot of stuff. And I'm curious to see if he says anything about number 500. He says, look, I was just trying to get it to Davante. We've had a few in the past. And Does he say that, or does he say, I tried to get it to whoever and it just didn't work out? But I agree. Drop passes, not just an Aaron Rodgers problem. Placement on some of his throws, I think early on might have been a little bit of a problem or forced, but by and large, just lots of drop balls this season. I think we lead the league is what I heard in terms of drop passes. Grove says this team just stinks. Most drop passes, one of the most highly penalized teams, just can't stop shooting themselves in the foot. Yeah, look, that's why I feel like a new coaching staff is going to be a magical elixir. I think the concentration from drop passes will have maybe a little more focus. I mean, it's obviously a player issue, but Davante, I feel like, hasn't really dropped much. And if he's here next year with Rodgers, you expect less drops overall because the ball's going to be going to Garrett and him more consistently than, Lazard, who had, I believe, 2 drops today. I feel you. The penalizations, like Olu had the 2 penalties today. I think he had, was it an illegal man downfield and a holding penalty? So not great. Hopefully he's all right from a health perspective. War Dog Man says, yeah, I liked what I saw today. Just wished Aaron Rodgers didn't force some throws to Davante's. Yeah, that's exactly where I'm feeling. Sushi King says Wilson is gone. That's the concern. Like, to me, keeping Garrett happy while also looking good are probably one of the most important things. Keep Garrett happy the rest of the season so he wants to stay here with Aaron for next year. And have this offense look good. Be damned about the defense. Defense is going to come back together. That's fine. But make this offense look good and appealing for a GM head coaching candidate where they say, okay, this is a team I can win with. And it does seem from all reports that at the very least, the Jets are seen as a good location to land because Woody Johnson's going to give you the amount of time needed to try and put your stamp on a team. Now, I think Robert Saleh was the quickest any of our coaches has been fired outside of Adam Gase. So maybe the last 2 coaches, maybe there's, a little chaos there. But remember, it was Chris Johnson that fired Gase, not Woody Johnson. Generally speaking, Bowles got a good amount of time. Rex got a good amount of time. Herm got a good amount of time. I think Mangini might have been let go a little bit earlier than I would have thought. I'm not really sure how that all kind of played out. But by and large, like, Douglas got 6 years. Like, I don't know. Hopefully you can keep Wilson happy and you can kind of keep the rest of this fan base or rest of the team in general looking appealing for that next person that's coming in. I think coaching is such a liability. And watching Gibson return kicks because he gets a yard or 2 past the 30, 1 out of every 20 really annoys me. I don't understand why Gibson continues to return kicks. Why not have Corley out there? There is literally no, what's the worst thing that happens? You see what happens to your 3rd round pick? He gets some playing time before starting him next year and hoping to rely on him a little bit more consistently. The Gibson thing doesn't make any sense to me. Kev says, we need a top 10 quarterback. Aaron Rodgers can barely run. He held the ball too long, causing a fumble. If we need a top 10 quarterback, who are you getting for next year? It's just not going to happen. Realistically, you're running back with Rodgers next year and you're drafting a quarterback that you're hoping is going to be top 10. I think Rodgers has been probably a top 15 quarterback this year, across the board. Does his mobility, has it hurt us this year? Yeah. Since the bye week, though, a little less so. He has been moving around a little bit. I think today, he had 1 all right run. It might have just been 1. Yeah, 1 run for 6 yards. But he led our team in rushing, I think, last week, right? He had 43 yards. So I don't think the mobility is as big of an issue for Rodgers as it was early on. Will says, going for it on 4th down is your in your own half cost you the game. Yeah, look, again, I'm not going to be beat up over wins and losses. I think when you're a 4-win team, if you want to get aggressive, get aggressive. What's the worst thing that happens, right? This coaching staff's going to be gone. Try to get some excitement going for the fans. I don't know. I understand. It's not a smart football play by any stretch of the imagination, but I guess I'm less concerned because this isn't going to be our coaching staff for next year. I bet you the right coaches, this team would have 10 wins. I think if you had the right kicker and the right coach, this team is dramatically better. You run the ball in cold weather, 44 dropbacks, only 20 rushing attempts. Not just 44 dropbacks because that's probably counting sacks, right? How many sacks do they have? One sack? 43 dropbacks? Is that right? Yeah, either way, not ideal. Not ideal. Cold weather, you'd like to expect the run to be a little bit more efficient. But look, the passing game, for whatever reason this year, has just been more effective than our running game. Beanie looks nice. I don't know what that means. Do I have a beanie on? I don't have a beanie on. I did get a nice beanie. Say that. Maybe you're talking about 𝐿𝐵𝐿. Did 𝐿𝐵𝐿 have a beanie on? Ruben says this team is cursed. We lost our left tackle for next year on the meaningless game. Hopefully we didn't lose him. Do we know what the injury is yet for Olu? I heard foot. Hopefully it's not an Achilles or something along those lines. Douglas says, I'm at the point of indifference. I might as well just go for the local team and root for the Cowboys. I can be disappointed from a nicer stadium. I understand that. Look, this fan base, or the stories that came out this week about Woody and Brick and all those guys, had me to a point where I felt like, man, you know what? If this team would just move to fucking London, I wouldn't have to put up with this anymore, because then I could just wash my hands clean of this damn team. Like, don't think it hasn't been a thought in my head. It pisses me off to no end. But this is our team. I'm sticking with them through thick and thin. Just, man, I can understand the disappointment and the frustration that this team does cause. I think it's entirely fine for you to check out of Jets football and to, appreciate another team. I would venture to say maybe an NFC team, so that way there's less conflict with your Jets. The Lions are a fun team to root for. Whatever. I would say probably not the Giants, since they're our crosstown rivals. But if you wanted to go a little bit of a different direction, I don't fault anyone for that. Jet Engine comes in again. What's up? He says, I love the young fans that hate the fan base and our negativity. It's cute. I was you in 1993 or so. It was Boomer that was going to save us back then. Look, I think there's always hope when there's a new quarterback in here. And you can be irritated with the fan base because, there's always the new fan that's overly optimistic. I've been there. Growing up, I saw the most successful, stretch of Jets football, I think, in our history. From 97 through 90 or through 2010, right? My adolescent years. And there was optimism. Each year, it was every other year you would make it to the playoffs. And it's been such a shitty season. I don't know how these guys that are sub 14 years old feel compassionate about our Jets, what we've seen the last bunch of years. I don't know. Look, they sell us hope. That's what it is. They sell us hope. Let's see. Lord Jaffe says, just bought the all-black Rodgers jersey. I hope he comes back for you then, dude. It's sharp. The black color's sharp. I'd like to see Rodgers back. I would want to run it back for the Jets. Dr. Cornelius is playing for pride. Yep. Coaches and players. Rams team that placed 44 on the Bills defense put up 19 against us without Quinnen, and we still lose. Yeah, look, not just we lost, but we didn't have Quinnen. We lost Sauce for a little bit of this. We gave up, a fourth down in our own territory. We were in position to kick a field goal. We missed a field goal. We missed extra points, and we went for fourth down, in field goal range. And so we left a lot of points on the board. So this is actually not I don't know. As far as things go, I'm not really beat up about this team right now. Jet Engine says, my kids are 13 and 16. They have zero interest. I don't blame them. I don't blame them at all. The entirety of their childhood, this team has been incredibly underperforming. And, I guess the 16-year-old might have some recollection of the butt fumble, right? That would have been, maybe 6, maybe not. This team's been an embarrassment for the larger half of the last decade and a half. Very little winning. Bray 2 says Sam Darnold next year. I love me some Sam. I don't think he's coming back. I think he winds up going to the Rams, being the heir apparent to Stafford. It depends if Stafford comes back and how his season's kind of looking. Garrett Wilson will want to trade. This team is a joke. I've been saying Garrett Wilson's going to want to trade for over a year. People didn't like it, but especially with the Tank Dell injury, I don't know if they confirmed what was actually what Tank Dell hurt, if it's torn, knee ligaments, but that could put him out, a chunk of next year too. Watch for the Texans to offer a fat trade compensation for Garrett Wilson. I hope we don't bite on it. Radimus says, Garrett's literally the most targeted wide receiver in the league. People crack me up. If that's the case, like, why not just say, like, oh, if the Jets offer you a long-term deal, do you want to stay here? Just say yes. Of course. You know, it depends on the numbers or whatever. You know, obviously I'll let my agent take care of that, but I'd love to be a Jet long-term. He didn't say that. Force-feeding it to Devontae has worked his entire career. Look, I mean, if you could force-feed it to someone, Devontae's not really a terrible person to force-feed it to. He's pretty much always open. And when you have wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 1B, like, on the same offense, it's hard to argue either way. I just feel like we definitely forced it to Devontae when I think Garrett was probably, if I had to go back and look at the tape, probably going to end up being open more consistently than not. Lord Jaffe says, we are a bad coached team. CBS showed Rodgers' expressions as they never called the timeout. We are a poorly coached team. I believe that is our biggest hamstring right now. Ruben, been a Jets fan since the 80s, the most disappointing team ever, talented but lack of heart. Yeah, I agree. This has been a very tough season to watch for the Jets. Like, even last year, like, you could at least look and be like, oh, well, maybe Zach Wilson does something interesting, or maybe Rodgers comes back at the end of the season and we have this magical run. And like there were storylines last year. This team has been basically dead in the water since that Halloween game. And like that little bit of a blip Halloween win really gets dampened when you find out Brick gives the game ball to Garrett Wilson and this cringy speech and everything. And like, yeah, there's a lot of shit that gets on my nerves about this team. Lazard needs some stickum on his claws. You know, I thought there was a chance he may come back next year just to keep things even if he takes a lower contract. But him dropping that many passes, I don't know if that's realistic at all. We got Aaron Rodgers presser coming up right now, so let's go over to that.
How's the foot feel?
Yeah, it's more knee. It feels okay.
Nothing serious done or worried about before you
What happened on the fumble?
Yeah, I probably should have dealt the ball. Looked like we were pretty gloved at all the spots, but I either should have just got quick out of the pocket or just dumped it somewhere. That's bad play.
You just talk about the 99-yard drive to start, and then what disappeared after that?
Well, the rhythm disappeared, I think, just because it was a real strange game possession-wise. Not a lot of possessions, but high-volume plays. Yeah, I mean, that drive, everybody touched the ball. You know, I felt like we had a couple good runs. Tay had a catch. You know, G had a catch. Conk had a couple. After that, they kind of just sat back in too high most of the game, and we didn't, you know, run the ball super efficiently, and you didn't throw it very efficiently from that point forward either.
Aaron, you mentioned some positives in today's game. What is some of those positives that you would focus on to take into next week to change things around for you guys?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I think I thought Brees played really well. You know, had some big-time plays in the past game. One had a catch, a third and long where he split two guys, got a first down for us. I thought Conk was in the game and made some good plays. You know, a lot of stuff that gets us is the same stuff all season. Just the details in some certain areas hurt us in some fourth downs. You know, I missed a couple throws, but we had plenty of chances to convert. Had a couple penalties that hurt us on drives as well. So in a game where there's only a few possessions, you got to score every possession.
You spoke going about Olu this week. Just talk about your emotions with him going down.
Yeah, disappointed for him. He's such a good kid. He got a bright future. Hopefully he avoided any major injury. I don't know. I just saw him in there. Didn't get a chance to talk to him, but hopefully he'll be all right.
You guys ended up with, I think, 44 dropbacks, 20 rushes. When you see the weather like today, you kind of expect it to be a run-heavy game. How much of that is that? How much of that is?
I don't expect it to be a run-heavy game. No. I mean, maybe if it's snowing. Cold weather, man. We throw the ball in cold weather all the time.
Was that called that way, or are you checking out of any runs, or like how much of it is?
I don't think I really checked out of any runs. I threw 2 run solutions. One was a illegal man downfield. on a play that would have been -5. And then the other one threw it to Devontae on the right. Other than that, they didn't check out of any.
Garrett, up until the game, the offense's final possession, I think, only had 3 targets. Were they doing anything specifically to try to take
Two-shell. Yeah, a lot of two-shell. So there wasn't a lot of singles for him. That's what they wanted to play. Yeah, a lot of two-shell on the outside. So if he's going to be back by himself, there's going to be safety help a lot.
On the pass to Devontae in the end zone, I think the guy might have punched it out there. That would have been your 500th. Did you know that going in right into that?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, wish he would have caught it.
Aaron, one question. How do you approach, keeping the team positive after, a tough loss like this, not necessarily go your way?
Well, I don't know if I think we're kind of past the keeping the positive thing. I think it's just about perspective. Your perspective informs your truth, and your truth makes your reality. So the reality situation is what it is. But your perspective is something you can change every single day. So what you're focusing on is the most important thing now. It's not to change the reality of the situation, being 4-11 out of the playoffs, going into an unknown off season, but you got to figure out what it means to be a professional. I think that's an important part of building culture. And for the last 2 weeks, we can really see who's on board moving forward and who is ready to get out. It's just part of the game. I've been on a couple teams where we're out of it, and it's interesting to watch the practice habits, the preparation habits. Hopefully we'll do the right thing, and that means a lot because everybody's watching, and it's a who-you-know business. So, there'll be interesting conversations in the next couple of weeks, but just focus on the relationships that we have with each other and trying to finish this thing out like a pro.
Do you say anything to some of those players that look like they might be checked out, or is it just you just kind of let them go and it's kind of showing true colors of anything?
I think you try and say stuff for sure if you care about them. It's hard, it's hard. It's part of it, and I get it. It's been a rough season for all of us, but there's just a way of going about your business. I think that's important to learn in these adverse times. And there's a lot of guys who've really been practicing their butt off and been locked in, and hopefully everybody does that for the last 2 weeks.
Couple more. How does the experience change for you throwing in Jacksonville versus throwing here, 18 degrees, where you're just used to it from Green Bay?
Yeah, I've played a lot of games in the cold. Always felt like the pass rush is a little slower in the cold. I felt like the advantage we had a lot in Green Bay was not just the cold weather, but the field, because it was unpredictable, and a lot of guys wouldn't wear 7 studs for whatever reason, comfort-wise maybe, and I like that help us in the passing game. But on an artificial surface, it's a little less, obviously, with the field impacting the game. But I didn't feel like the pass rush was super effective today. I feel like our line blocked them up really good all day. I had plenty of time, and we just didn't get open and hit them when they were open enough.
You stood up there after many losses talking about the little details, like that didn't happen. How frustrating is it to be standing here like this late in the season and still lamenting the same thing over and over again?
Yeah, it's the reality, Rich. It's been all year. I think that's what needs to clean up moving forward for some of these guys to reach their full potential, is to just lock in on the details. And it's not just this offense. Whatever comes next after this, there's going to be important details in every offense, and that's just the little tweaks that are the difference between explosive gains or conversions and turnover on downs.
How do you fix that then? I know it's kind of just a direct question, but you've talked about it a bunch. You aren't the only one. Everyone who said it. A lot of guys realize that the little things are the problem, but they're not getting fixed. So how do you fix that?
Well, Connor, I think we have the ability to inspire, but in the end, motivation comes from within. So it's got to be each person motivated to find the little things in the offense where they can really lock in on the details. Because there's a few plays every single game. It might be a play in the first or second quarter that wins the game, and it comes down to little adjustments or details or reactions in the game, and just training yourself to make the proper reaction. Some of that's setting the standard in preparation, but a lot of it's just on all of us to just care enough to put in that little extra time, I think.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Thanks.
All right, so really interesting press conference right there. One thing that I really took away from this entire press conference was the difference between Ulbricht's answer to why were there so many throws and so many dropbacks, and Rodgers' answer as to why there were so many throws and dropbacks. Now, Ulbricht, if memory serves me correct, was saying that there were run plays that were checked out of. And Rodgers said that he only checked out of 2, which means you're still talking 42 dropbacks and not a whole lot of runs, which, look, Rodgers said he wanted to pass more, and it's a cold weather day. He thinks there's less energy or maybe less speed from the pass rush. Didn't feel like he was, thrown off his game too much by the pass rush and whatnot. I'm fine with him throwing the ball a lot. Honestly, our run game has just been so abysmal on a consistent basis. The first drive felt like we were moving pretty consistently, and then I don't know what happened beyond that. Really, really frustrating to see. Clearly, there's something wrong with the balance of our team, because when you're allowing the team, the defending team, to play 2 high safeties, that means they're not bringing anyone down. They're not afraid of any kind of run. They feel like they could stop it with their front 7. And it's preventing Davante and Garrett from having some of those bigger plays, because you can have safeties over the top on both of them. Boys and girls, I want to get back to your questions in just a moment. But before I do want to talk a little bit about Odds Jam. Look at these results. These people are making free money betting on sports, making thousands every month. The secret, they're using Odds Jam. Odds Jam isn't just another betting app. It's turning the entire system in your favor. Here's how. Odds Jam uses a strategy called arbitrage, finding odds differences across sportsbooks. You bet both sides. No matter the outcome, you will profit. Here's an example. You put $500 on Boise State to win on FanDuel and $335 on their opponent, San Francisco, on DraftKings. You're guaranteed to make $50 win or lose. It's that simple. With Odds Jam mobile app, you'll get real-time alerts on these opportunities every day. People are making thousands monthly. And to get you started, use code JETSTALK for 35% off and a 7-day free trial. I guarantee you'll profit during the trial. And if you don't, cancel with one click, no questions asked. Don't leave money on the table. Go to oddsjam.com, use code JETSTALK, and start making money the smart way. OddsJam, thank you so much for sponsoring the channel. Boys and girls, we're going to get back to your questions. I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on the Jets' loss to the Los Angeles Rams? I will drop the call-in number in the chat if you guys would like to call in. We could talk a little bit about where we see our Jets going from here on out. Where's my... Boom. There we go. All right. So Nightbot should be commenting in there. Let me just pin this to the live chat. So if you guys want to call in, you'll see the pinned comment in the live chat. Would be happy to converse with you and see where you stand on this Jets team. All right. Let me give me 1 second here. Just testing out a thing. Nope, didn't do that. Didn't change that over. All right, so we're just going to go to the 2-person. Why not? All right, first up, we got Max. Max, how you doing, brother? Long time no talk. I can't hear you. Check your microphone. Can you guys hear Max? I can't hear Max. All right, Max, I'm going to boot you. Just come back, all right? I'm going to go on to Mike, and then I'll bring you back on. It's weird. I heard guest audio, but I didn't hear his microphone for some reason. All right, Mike, how you doing, brother?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you loud and clear.
All right, cool. I'm just mad, so I'm just gonna vent because that's what we do here.
Okay, go for it.
You want to bring Rodgers back? Hear me out. You only want to do it because you have no idea what else they can do. But you're gonna short. What's gonna happen is you're gonna get a Daniel Jones situation. The new coach and GM will come in. You may have success next year. You may not. I think it's gonna be a failure, but maybe I'm wrong. And then what's gonna happen is he'll leave, and he'll be right at this fucking spot with no quarterback in the year after with less cap space because you had to suck up to Rodgers and pay all these guys so much money. Devontae Adams, maybe Lazard because we hate ourselves and we want to watch him drop another 40 passes. I don't really know. I love seeing Tyler Conklin getting screens. Makes me happy. It makes me it just tickles me inside. But like we're so short-sighted because we're so deprived of success that we rather screw up next 3-4 years of having an actual rebuild for this one last Hail Mary grasp that it's not going to work. He's proven it this year. If we paid him to win the games where he had the ball in his hands at the end of the game, regardless of how shit the play was, regardless of the kicker, regardless of everything else, and he lost us those games. Minnesota, Denver, the ball's in his hands. I can go back to almost every game. This game, ball's in his hands on that 4th down. What does he do? Let's give it back to the Rams. Let's have a blast, have a go. I can't understand why fans want this 42-year-old man to be running this team next year at $60 million dead cap money to screw up the whole future, which is already screwed up. And Brick Johnson, if that story's true, which I sadly think part of it is, that's why this team died after winning a fucking huge game, because this management and this owner suck. You killed the only momentum we had, yourselves. Talk about shooting yourself in the freaking foot.
Oh, man, Mike, I loved that zest. That was a lot of fun to hear. Oh, man. Real quick, I just want to point out some of the comments he made. So as far as running it back with Rodgers and the issues that could potentially cause, I think there's definitely problems with having Rodgers come back. $63 million, dead cap in 2026 is going to be one of those problems. The question that I do pose to people who don't want Rodgers back next year, are you okay if the answer might have to be we're trading Garrett Wilson? Are you okay with I think you're going to run into an issue with a lot of players. You probably trade Breece at the deadline if I had to imagine. There's going to be a lot of players that don't wind up staying on this team, I think. Does that mean anything to you? Would you rather just see a season of Tyrod and Travis and see how it goes? I feel like at least with Rodgers, while you may not, he may not be the quarterback to win it all, I don't necessarily feel like that would be his job next year. I don't think you have to bend and break to his will to make it work. Now, he has mentioned that he would be willing to take a lower contract, would be willing to work, with the Jets if he continues to want to play. Now, maybe the easiest decision is just him just coming out and saying, I'm going to retire. I'm not playing an additional year. And the Jets are just forced to make the decision. Now, do you try to draft a quarterback high? Do you go with a Milroe? Do you try to trade into the back end of the first? Do you try to trade up? Maybe one of these teams like the Rams or the Giants wind up winning a game. Do you try to sneak up to the top of the draft? I don't know. For me, I feel like I'd rather bolster this team with the best player available, maybe trade down in the first, add as many picks as I can, and then have Rodgers come back with all the same people. You get one more opportunity with Jordan Travis, in the behind the scenes, see what he's got through the preseason. If Rodgers really starts stinking it up, it is what it is. You wind up getting a high draft pick for 2026. If you want to make the decision to move on from some players at the trade deadline, if it's really not looking great, you can make that decision. I guess it becomes a little bit harder if you're not knocked out of playoff contention by that point, because then are you trading Breece in a season that you think Aaron might be able to get it back? I don't know. There's going to be hiccups and hurdles no matter which way you go. And I'll be honest, I really don't care. I don't care which way they go. I'm not going to get myself worked up. To the second part, or the last part, if that Brick Johnson story is true about the Titans and everything, which it feels like it's very much true, not to mention all the other shit that's been going on with this damn team and Madden rankings. I don't think the Madden rankings is why we didn't trade Lazard for Jerry Jeudy. I think it was legitimately because Lazard's contract and Lazard the player is not something that Denver wanted to take on. That's what my source told me. That's what Brian Kaz has also echoed. So I think that aligns more with the truth than just Madden rankings. That's why we didn't do it. I don't know. All right, let's go over to Max. Max, how you doing, dude? Max, I still don't have you. Donde está your volume? Where's your microphone? All right, you try to figure that out. I'm gonna go to Carson, and then I'll come back to you. I'm gonna boot you. Boom. Let's go over to Carson. What's up, dude? How you doing?
What's going on, Ryan? It's been well.
Carson.
How the kids and everything?
I didn't know you worked at a good place. Damn.
I'm at work right
Carson.
now, closing up in like
This
5
stream-
minutes. But I saw you live. I was like, you know what? He never does a call-in show, so I'm gonna hop in.
Tomorrow
So,
you're going to get a 2-hour call-in show because we gave the Talking Jets guys 2 weeks off. So I'll do my own show for 2 hours. So we can talk a little bit more when you're off the clock too. But here, let me reset your timer. What you got for me?
So listen. Me and you go way back, and I'm very kind-hearted about the Jets and all this shit. But like, when's this shit gonna stop? What like? It's been a long time. Like I'm 24 years old now. I was 10, 11 years old when the Jets made the playoffs last, right? Like, listen, I think I heard what the last caller said about the draft and wanting to draft maybe a quarterback. I think the top 3 are decided. I think it's Hunter, I think it's Ward, and I think it's Shedeur. I think those 3 are top 3 locked. So if we're not in the top 3, we're not getting any of those. So then you look at the rest of the guys. You got Mason Graham. You got Abdul Carter. I don't know how much college football you watch, Ryan.
I like both those guys.
Abdul Carter is a monster.
Carter and Graham are the 2 guys I would prefer, I think. If Devontae doesn't come back, McMillan is up there for me too.
We need to be in the top 6.
I agree.
We need to be in the top 6. And did Carolina win today?
Carolina won. They're still sitting in front of us. I don't know how strength of schedule is going to work out. They are 0.004 in front of us. From a strength of schedule perspective, we're still sitting at 8. They are at 7. So right now it goes Giants, Raiders. If the Raiders lose today, then they would stay at 1. You got Titans, Browns, Patriots, Jaguars, Panthers, then the Jets sitting at 8.
Yeah, listen. My guy is Abdul Carter. I think anybody that knows football and watches football can see, like, my brother goes to Penn State. Okay, so I'm privy to much more Penn State football than a lot of other people. And I went to the playoff game against SMU.
That's fun.
And with my brother, we got tickets. And Penn State doesn't give out the number 11 to scrubs. Micah Parsons, LeVar Arrington, and Abdul Carter. Those were the last 3 to wear it in the last, I think, 10 years. Go Jets, Ryan. Go Jets.
So before I let you go, I want to hear, do you think 𝐂𝐼𝐼𝐼 is the real deal in 2026, and should the Jets be making a move to go get him?
You broke up. I didn't hear you.
Drew 𝐂𝐼𝐼𝐼, the quarterback from Penn State, is he the real deal, and should the Jets try to go up and get him in 2026, or do we have to wait and see what happens next year?
I'm not a Drew 𝐂𝐼𝐼 guy. I'm not.
Oh, really? Okay.
He's frantic with his footwork. He has arm talent. His accuracy is questionable. His deep ball is questionable because Penn State runs a very run-heavy scheme. He's like J.J. McCarthy. J.J. McCarthy was in a scheme with Michigan where they were much more run-heavy than they were pass-heavy. And I think Penn State, they have great weapons on the outside, Julian Fleming, Tyler Warren. But they run the ball with 2 of their great backs, 𝐀𝐟𝐼𝐼𝐼 Allen and Singleton. Right? So they're much more run-enthused in the offensive end. 𝐂𝐼𝐼 has a lot of work to do. I don't think when he comes out, I don't think teams are going to be desperate for quarterbacks, but I don't think he's going to be a top 15 pick. He has so much. He has all the tangibles. He's got big hands. He's tall. He's got everything you want in a quarterback. But he has a lot to work on. Footwork, accuracy, deep ball accuracy. There's a lot to work on with 𝐂𝐼𝐼. There's much better options than Drew 𝐂𝐼𝐼.
Interesting. Carson, I appreciate the call. Maybe I'll talk to you tomorrow. You've been ejected from the cockpit. Boys and girls, that was Carson. All right, let's give it another go. Let's see if we can get Max on here. Max, talk to me, brother. Damn it. Damn it, I can't hear you. Where's your microphone coming from? Is it plugged in? Max, you're killing me. I'm excited to talk to you. Try calling in on your phone. Try calling in on your phone. Give that one more go at that. Damn. We tried. All right, let's go over to Jetman. Jetman, how you doing, dude? Man, Jetman's gone. That is all right. Boys and girls, I want to hear from you in the comment section, in the chat. How are you feeling about this team, where we stand right now, and what the future holds? Do you want to see Aaron Rodgers back next year? Do you want to draft a quarterback? If so, who do you want to see? Let's go through the chat, see what we got going on. 7 offensive penalties, absolutely unacceptable. I agree. It's been a consistent problem with this damn team. All right, we got Max on his phone. Let's see if we can get Max back up on here. Max, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. Can you hear me now?
We got you, Yahtzee. Talk to me. How you feeling?
So I think this loss is bad, but a lot of these fans think that, Aaron Rodgers is the problem. I just don't think Aaron Rodgers is the problem because, I mean, this is the best quarterback play. I've watched through Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson was terrible. And I'm watching the games, like, our receivers can't even catch a pass. Like, seriously, I was watching Lazard. Like, he is so bad. And some of the reports about Jerry Jeudy, like, with the Mattering, like, seriously, like Brick Johnson, he's such a Nepo baby. He never had to work a day in his life. I mean, it's kind of crazy. I've never seen anything like it. And
now, Woody Johnson is like father, like son. It's just one of those, don't have to work. Just kind of own a team and play with your chess pieces.
Yeah, and I saw a press conference. It was like, according to Rossini, that the Brick Johnson was in the locker room. That locker room was for players only. Like, I just don't get it. But the loss today means a typical Jets loss. I mean, we have to focus on the offseason. My top 3 head coaching candidates. So Ben Johnson's number 1. I think we need to hire Ben Johnson. I mean, he's a good offensive mind. My second option is Mike Vrabel, good culture guy. And then if we can't get like any of the top head coaching candidates, I don't mind Rex Ryan coming back to the Jets because Rex Ryan's the best Jets coach we've seen in the last 15 years. That's just my opinion on it. And then for the draft, this is a dream scenario. Like I think a running game, we need to have a better running game. We have to decide the future, like, because, Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, contracts, Breece Hall. If Breece Hall gets released, I think the Jets should get Ashton Genty. And normally I'm against drafting a running back first round, but Ashton Genty is like a generational running back. He is like the second coming of Barry Sanders. That's just my opinion.
All right. I got to let you have it right now. I do not want the Jets to be drafting Genty at the top of this round, top of the first round. If anything, I would like them to trade down from that pick. If they're sitting at pick number 8 and Genty's there and there's like the Bengals and maybe the Cowboys sitting there, a few picks behind us, and they're like, hey, we'll give you a second round pick or a third round pick or whatever to just slide back down. I'd rather slide down, keep Breece right now. We know what Breece is. Breece is a proven commodity. Genty, incredible generational running back, but has a ton of wear and tear on his legs. Like that does scare me coming into the NFL to some degree. Not to mention there's a lot of other good running backs. And we got Braylon Allen in like the 5th round. So like, why do we have to overextend ourselves?
Good. I mean, I'm saying Braylon is good. Breece is good. I mean, that's just my dream scenario, but we need defense. Our defense is terrible. Our defense is like Swift.
Give me
very bad.
I don't dislike your head coaching candidate. Like, I like Ben Johnson. I don't think he's coming here. I do prefer more of an established head coach. Vrabel, to me, is the guy that we heard rumors of him, or not rumors, but like stories of him in the locker room, like telling dudes to get out or like, this is like unacceptable. Like, you're cut. Like, this is how you're finding out. Like, don't let the door hit you on the back on the way out. Like, I like Vrabel a lot. Vrabel is my top option. So I like that pick for you. As far as Rex, there's a lot of love from the Jets fans from his first 2 years with us, but the next 4 with us, plus the 2 with Buffalo, were absolutely atrocious. They were so bad. He went to a loaded Bills team and dismantled them systematically. Like, I love me some Rex. I love the passion. I would rather have Aaron Glenn as the passionate Jet returning to us with the new blood of a coach than Rex Ryan coming back, I think, at this point. So, Max, I don't dislike all your takes, but I dislike the Genty one and I dislike the Rex one. Brother, I appreciate talking to you. You have been ejected from the cockpit. All right, we got Jetman and then Jet Engine coming up. Jetman, how you doing, brother?
Hey, Ryan. Merry Christmas to you and your family.
Merry Christmas to you as well. How you feeling about our Jets right now?
Well, it's liquid encouragement every week. Let's put it that way. I mean, at this point, we don't expect much. I mean, I don't blame again. I agree with everybody else. We don't blame Rodgers at this point. He's actually producing the last couple of weeks. I think Lazard needs to go. Period. He's not coming back. Too many drops in the past couple games. It's not worth it. I just don't know where we stand if we're to bring him back at this point. Either as an active quarterback or even a consulting position at this point for a new quarterback. So, I mean, your thoughts?
So I do agree. I think Lazard's probably shouldn't be on this team because of the drops first and foremost. I probably struggle a little bit if he's like, hey, look, I'll take the vet min for a year or something like that because that's what I'll get somewhere else, and I'd rather be here than somewhere else. If that's the case, I probably am like all right with it. I'd like to see more Corley, so I'd prefer to see like Davante, Garrett, and Corley in the slot as opposed to like Lazard being the big slot. I'd rather get some energy that way. And as far as Rodgers, like I do think I'd like to see him back. I do question how much his culture might like impact the team, like either in a positive or a negative light. I think it's all going to depend on the head coach and how they restructure like the energy with this team. I think Vrabel is the culture changer that we need. Is there a player in the draft that you kind of want? Like, would you want us to go with a quarterback or go a different position?
I want to go a different position. I think offensive line at this point hasn't been right since Mangold and Ferguson haven't been there, and it takes a couple years for that to develop. The other thing I think is the new regime gonna piecemeal all of our players that are decent and decide to trade them out to try and get better picks? I mean, that's the problem, man. I don't know where it's going to go at this point.
I am as equally confused and questioning as to where we're going to go. So I completely agree with you, Jetman. Thank you so much for the call. You've been ejected from the cockpit. We've got Jet Engine coming up. Let's head over to Jet Engine. Brian, how you doing, dude?
Hey, what's up, man? Been a while.
Yeah. How are you feeling about this team? I know you're not too enthusiastic about Rodgers potentially coming back.
Well, we're still trying to course correct from mistakes that this organization has made for going back a few years. Hiring Adam Gase over some of the other candidates just in and of itself was an absolute disaster. We still haven't recovered from. Another one was getting rid of Darnold and then drafting Zach Wilson, who anybody who was paying attention to college football said, yeah, he's got a great arm, but the only significant time that he ever played, the only time he had it East, he sucked. He played a terrible schedule. He should never have been drafted. Whatever. We're going over water already under the bridge. But they need a full course correction. I think that Vrabel would be a great idea. We're actually close to having a decent offensive line. We've got a lot of pieces in place. They got to keep Simpson. They've got to keep. Obviously, we have Tippmann. Obviously, we need to probably keep Morgan Moses. We don't need to keep spending first-round picks on offensive linemen. You don't need five guys who were drafted in the top 30 in a draft. You can find those guys in the second, third, fourth round. Right now, what's killing this team, I mean, we've been watching it. No, I'm not a big fan of the 4-3 anyway, but it is what it is. They got to fix the defensive line. They are getting run over week after week after week. It has been happening for a couple of years now. Saleh told us right before he got fired that we'll stop the run when we want to. Well, we still haven't apparently wanted to. So that should get fixed. I think that's a huge thing. I think that if I was running the team, it needs to be Vrabel. Figure out who he wants to work with as a GM. I don't care about the organizational structure at this time. We obviously know anything looks good on paper, what he's going to fuck it up anyway. Whatever. Get two guys who can work together. And then Rodgers needs to be given a hard deadline. Tell us what your plan is. I'm not a big fan right now, but if we got to bring him back, we got to bring him back. I don't see a quarterback in this draft that's worth, moving up for or shifting around. We need assets. We need to correct the problems we made with Gase and then what we did with Darnold. Get assets. We need to try and start smoothing things over with Garrett Wilson. Homegrown, emerging superstars do not fall out of trees. Letting this kid go for nothing would be a disaster. If Rodgers comes back and we get a commitment from him by March 1st, we know, okay, we've got a quarterback. We're heading into a year. We'll probably keep Davante if Rodgers is coming back. We need to fix the interior of the defensive line. The secondary is good, aside from we need a good, rangy safety. Our linebackers, I know Quincy was good last year. Our linebackers suck, dude. We need to fix the entire linebacker core. C.J. Mosley's done. I love Jamie and Sherwood. Jamie and Sherwood's from Stuart, Florida. He's from Jensen Beach High School, right up the road from where I lived for the last few years. He's not the guy we need. We need to fix the defense. I know we've been trying to fix the defense, it feels like, for 20 fucking years. Whatever. We need to get somebody in the middle of the line, but we got to start with Vrabel coming in, God willing that he's willing to take the job and that Woody stays out of his way. We have somebody who can actually look at a roster, know how to coherently build a football roster and a football team.
So Jet Engine, I completely agree. And here's where my thought process goes from like the starting point of, you know, we have to figure out who our head coach GM is. I agree with you, Vrabel, and then let him bring in whoever he wants, or tell him, hey, who do you want us to interview? Glenn Cook, the VP, I believe it is of player personnel for the Browns, is someone who interviewed for the Titans job, didn't get the Titans GM job, and then Vrabel, after getting fired from the Titans, goes to the Browns, which is where Glenn Cook is. So I think those two would be a good pairing together. Vrabel, I think, has the vocal wherewithal to get people out of the locker room, to stand up to Woody.
He's got the cachet to grab, to tell Woody, fuck off. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think along with that Browns roster, Glenn Cook has seen, he's been there a long time. He's been able to see how they've built up that team from like the Baker Mayfield era and the Myles Garrett era all the way on through this year. I would look at Jedrick Wills. He is getting a void year in his contract, so he will be a free agent. He did have injuries the end of last year, plus the beginning part of this year. There was a story that came out that he made a business decision when he wasn't feeling 110%. He didn't want to play. They bound up benching him. And so there were issues there. I would be more than happy if he needs to prove it for a year, him following Vrabel over here, being our right tackle to compete with Morgan Moses. I think if you bring back Rodgers, there's probably a higher likelihood you retain Morgan Moses. If Rodgers leaves, I could see Moses wanting to go to a team that has the ability to potentially win a Super Bowl. Now, if Morgan Moses stays, Olu, we don't know his status as of right now with the injury. I think you hope for the best. He's your left tackle. But at the very least, Jedrick Wills gives you the opportunity to have a guy who's played left tackle in this league. And if you want to have him compete at right tackle, he played 3 years at Alabama exclusively on the right-hand side. So I think a one-year prove-it deal is perfect. Just a one-year prove-it deal for him would be absolutely perfect for me as far as the offensive line goes. Completely agree on the defensive side of the ball. I think you need a safety. I think you can address linebacker. I'm maybe a little less concerned right now on it. I think I would rather us maybe try to get a really good defensive tackle or an edge rusher or something along those lines. JJ coming back. I don't know if I'd... Mason Graham's the dream in the first round for me. If you can't, I'm fine with trading down, getting a few extra picks. I don't want to get a quarterback this year because I do think the sweet spot is that second round, but because of where we're going to be sitting, we're going to have to leap in front of a few teams, and that might mean giving up the 26th first, and I don't think that's a smart move.
The roster's almost where it needs to be. We need to learn, though, from our mistakes of the past and not draft a young quarterback in a year or whatever and stick him on a team that sucks. We've done that again and again. Build the team. You got Rodgers as a bridge. Let him take the beating. Let him get his 500 and whatever. At this point, he's a mercenary. He's playing it out. If he wants to keep playing, fantastic. Do it in green and white while we'll build a team for the next guy. So anyway, thanks, bud. It's good seeing you.
Love it, dude. Thank you so much for the call, and I will talk to you in the chat. Jet Engine, everyone. Calling in. Boys and girls, if you're enjoying the live stream, please hit that like button. I only got 30 likes on this video. It would really go a long way for people tuning in to the post-game stream if you hit the like button and they see a whole bunch of likes. 1189 Paris says, Mike Vrabel is so overrated. He's the guy who hired on his staff Keith Carter and Todd Downing. I would rather get John Gruden or Pete Carroll or Aaron Glenn. Paris, let me counter this with Keith Carter's our offensive line coach. Olu looking like a stud. John Simpson having a career year. Tittman looking like a stud. AVT, it might be the worst of the five right now, and he's not even having a bad year. He's just like recovering from that Achilles injury that he had last year. I think it's going to take him one season. And then Morgan Moses is a stud. Like, I'm sorry. I disagree with the Keith Carter comment. As far as Todd Downing, I understand why like you may not like that. I think if Vrabel is the head coach and Rodgers does come back, there's a good chance both these guys are retained at least for one more year. I don't think we draft a quarterback. I think you run it back with Aaron, Tyrod, and Jordan Travis. That gives Jordan Travis the opportunity to learn under the same system for 2 consistent years. As much as you don't like it, I do think there's a high likelihood of this potentially happening. Now, if Rodgers doesn't want to come back, then I think you kind of upend the offensive side. You just sort of reset everything from there. Let's see. Brandon says, run Aaron Rodgers back. Hopefully he takes less. Aaron Rodgers is not even a top 5 problem. Aaron might even play 2 or 3 years. No kids, no wife. Football is life. I would take a late quarterback. You could, if you want to take a late round flyer on a quarterback, that's fine. I think for me, I'd rather aim towards the 2026 draft class. try to keep your assets as best you can. Have Rodgers come back next year. If he wants to continue playing, I'm not even necessarily against it if he looks good next year. He's got to look like the tail end of this year. If you give me from the bye week to now Aaron Rodgers for an entire season next year, I think the Jets are going to win a lot of games. I think if you have a better kicker, you have a better head coach making better decisions, and then you just fix up, what you can throughout the draft and free agency in terms of defensive line, stopping the run, real big issue. A lot of times when you get a good, run stuffer or hog in the middle part of the defensive line, the linebackers do tend to have more free lanes to run through to create more plays. So I think that is probably the route I would go. Bring back Sherwood. Bring back, obviously you got Quincy on one more year on his deal. So you're going to have to draft a linebacker at some point, I think, if you're not going to extend Quincy. And then you need a safety, right? All those particular positions right up the middle of the defense will help you with the run game. Not to mention stopping things over the top. But I think this team is not as far away as a lot of people may think it is from the outside looking in. What about Adams' drops? I'd have to see how many drops he has. I don't know offhand, but I feel like he has been more reliable than not. Again, that's me saying that without looking at his stats, so maybe I'm just going on vibes here, but I didn't feel like it was that bad. I just can't get over bailing on Salah at 2 and 3. I thought they did it 1 week too early. I think if they wanted to bail on Salah following the Bills game, which was the game that was upcoming that week, and they would have been sitting at 2 and 4, I think it's fine to pull the plug on Salah at 2 and 4 because you need to generate some type of spark before the season is lost. I did think they moved off him too early. If you have Salah as the head coach and he makes the decision to go to Todd Downing versus the Bills, maybe the defense continues to put up a better fight than they were, and then maybe everything kind of flows a little bit better. I don't know if it would have been enough to change things one way or the other, but I do think they went a little bit too early on that. And then Douglas, it didn't seem like he was coming back next year one way or the other. It sucks because I really wanted it to work out with Douglas. I thought he was our best GM that we've seen since I've been here, even with some of the bad decisions of trading Darnold away, drafting Zach Wilson, drafting Mekhi Becton. Like, I thought he had an eye for talent. I really did. Good trades, some decent undrafted free agent acquisitions. The free agency was definitely questionable. Your best guys being John Simpson and DJ Reed. Everyone else has probably been chalked up as more of a failure than anything else. So I don't know. I agree with the bailing on Salah thing a week too early. I think losing JFM hurt a lot more than they thought it would. Yeah, if you could go back in time, keeping JFM and not trading for Hassan Reddick would be the move. I think JFM provides far more valuable interior help and outside help than Hassan Reddick has shown at any point this entire season. Let's see. Javon Kinlaw is a poo-poo head. Yeah, I agree. That was a bad signing as well. Not good. I think Douglas probably leaned on Salah's knowledge of Kinlaw to get that. Now, obviously, I feel like we should have gotten some type of discount if Kinlaw wanted to come here. Like, I felt like the contract was too bad to sign him to. I didn't like it at the time. Brandon says, exactly. Vrabel has the backbone to stop Woody, fired or not. I agree. Vrabel getting fired was one of those coaching decisions where I thought, that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. Same thing with Brian Flores. Those are the two guys that I sit back and say, you know what, maybe I would have held on to either one of those. I don't mind the Jets going after them. Boys and girls, we are hitting the 1 hour mark, a little over the 1 hour mark here. If you guys want to call in number is pinned to the live chat. Feel free to do that. I do want to go over to one of our sponsors, then we'll be back momentarily. Some of my takes may stink doesn't mean you guys have to stink. And that's where the sponsor of today's video comes in. Mando reached out and said, Ryan, your team has stunk for a very long time, so we know that you understand what stinking is. And I said, yeah, absolutely. They're like, so bad, in fact, that we think we can smell you through the camera. And I was like, man, that's very aggressive. Thank you. But what do I got to do? They're like, hey, we're going to send you out some product. We want you to test it out. We want you to be honest with your audience. And then if you like it, offer up a promo code. I was like, all right, cool. So they sent me out the starter pack. I got the Mount Fuji deodorant. Really enjoy that. Put that on every day. In the summer, I've got what is known as a chafing problem, like two chestnuts over a roasting fire type problem. This stuff can be put on anything. Your feet, your butt crack, your grundle, your armpits, your hands, boobies, rolls, under boobies, anywhere. This stuff is totally safe. And throwing this on the chafing areas, very, very appreciated. It comes with 2 free gifts as well. I chose the bourbon leather body wash. Becca's really like that. But I think my favorite thing in the pack is honestly the deodorant wipes. I throw this into my to-go bag and I can just freshen up no matter where I am throughout my day. And maybe I was just yelling at a camera underneath some hot lights and I just need to look a little bit nicer, smell a little bit nicer when I walk out of the cockpit here. So guys, if you want to get in on this, I've really enjoyed it. Shopmando.com, promo code JetsTalk. That's shopmando.com, promo code JetsTalk is going to get you $5 off. That's a 40% off savings on their starter pack. Thank you so much for sponsoring the channel. Boys and girls, we got topics on the screen. Fashanu injury. Run it back with Rodgers. Vrabel's interested. Jets seem like a desirable location. Lots to get into. We're going to go over to one of our favorite callers. He's calling back in. We got Mike. I've got a problem. Mike, what's up? Is your problem the Jets?
I just can't help myself calling in and just, raging and getting absolutely raising my blood pressure through the roof. I agree with a lot of your take here. Keith Carter actually unironically might be the best coach on this team right now, which is disgusting. I never thought I would say that, but the offensive line is the one thing that's not the problem. The MetLife turf is. That's why they can't stay healthy, but that's a different discussion. The guy that I really like in this draft is that wide receiver, I think from Arizona or Arizona State, whatever his name is. He's McMillan. 6'5", can catch everything. Unlike Devontae Adams, Allen Lazard, and sometimes Garrett Wilson. This guy is a true number 1 receiver. Garrett Wilson's a number 1 receiver, but I don't think he's a true number 1 receiver. He doesn't have the build that this guy has. And if we're going to lose... You're
talking from like a size perspective, not necessarily like a skill perspective.
6'5", speedy, can do everything. Again, like Garrett Wilson does do a lot, but like we might lose Garrett Wilson. In fact, I think they'll end up trading him if he doesn't want to be here. That's a whole other story when that happens, or if it does, who knows. But if you're losing Garrett Wilson, if you're not bringing back Lazard, which no one should do, look at the tape, Jesus Christ. I might, that's embarrassing if we do. And Devontae Adams is going to be 33 if they do bring him back. Who knows with Rodgers? Like, you could be losing your top 3 receivers. So if that guy's there, or if you lose enough games to take up and get him, you don't have a choice, in my opinion. Him or Carter are the 2 guys you have to go with. I don't think O-line is necessarily a huge need because you do have Olu, and I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, I'm just fatigued out from offensive line picks, but like, and I don't think Graham's going to be there at 7. I think he goes in like the 4 to 5 range. I don't think we're going to even be close to that. So I love that receiver though. That's my own take on that.
The team that scares me is New England for McMillan. I think they're going to take him. If they can wind up with like a top 3 pick and they take a Travis Hunter, or they trade down below where the Jets are in some kind of like trade down situation, that's what I would prefer. That's the team, I think, of any of the teams in front of us that would take McMillan. I do agree. He fits a need that isn't necessarily a need right now. It's if Devontae doesn't come back, real big need. If Devontae does come back, then you might trade Garrett Wilson. I'm not sure. Like, I don't think you trade Garrett Wilson. I think you probably force him to play next year. But like, it doesn't seem like he's long for this team. And I think you do have to get someone here. I agree.
Yeah,
and Carter's the other guy on the defensive side. I like Carter. I agree with Graham. I think Graham's probably going before our pick. Any one of those 3 would be the 3 guys I would target.
I just feel like Carter gives you that buffer in case Jermaine Johnson has a slow start coming off the injury, which I'm okay with. And everyone's like, oh, it's an edge rusher. But it's kind of like, okay, get rid of Hassan Reddick, kick his ass to the curb, replace him basically with Carter. And then everyone's like, oh, you need to draft defensive tackles. Like, we can find 2 fat fucks to help out Quinn Williams in free agency. We've done it before a few times. Like, I'm sure there's someone out there who can do something against the run. Instead of Kinlaw, who is literally, I hope he gets put on a rocket ship with Lazard to the outer moon. That would be perfect. And strap Brick on there too, but like, Jesus.
So if we were to change our defense, like let's say we do go to a 3-4 and you start to like envision what that might look like. I mean, you got to think Quinnen winds up being an edge rusher in some capacity, or like at least on the edge or on the, one of the ends. You got Jermaine Johnson on the other end. You probably got to figure out the middle part of the defense. But I mean, or maybe it's Quinnen in the middle. You got JJ on one side. You got new edge rusher Abdul Carter on the other side. Maybe Will McDonald becomes a linebacker at that point, and he's just a stand-up guy. I think that would be fine. I think defensive line is the spot to go at the very top of this draft if McMillan's off the board.
Yeah, I agree with you. The one thing I want to say about the 3-4 and 4-3, what if we got a defensive coordinator who mixed and matched it up and actually, I don't know, confused defenses instead of giving them the same two looks every game? Like, we have the talent on defense, but the way Rodgers got confused when the defensive lineman dropped back and picked them off like 3 times this year, if we did stuff like that, I think it'd be very interesting. I think that's how you can, I'm not saying we have to have a set 4-3 or 3-4, but 10 plays here to 40 plays there or something based on what your identity is. Just figure out something and add some wrinkles to it, because it would be kind of cool to see that happen in a certified passing situation. The Jets line up in a 3-4 and just go after it, and they can also shore up the secondary. But it's just
I like the amoeba
they don't
front. Give me guys that might be coming but might not be coming, and drop in everyone's standing up. Maybe a bunch of guys with their hand in the dirt. Who cares? Just mix it up. Create confusion.
Make them think. Make them have to use their brains. Because when you watch the Jets, you know exactly what they're going to do from 10 miles away. I can pretty much call the game from my apartment, and that's a problem. This team is too vanilla on both sides of the ball. They need to do some things to mix it up. I don't know why Malachi Corley's in the doghouse. I don't know why Xavier Gipson isn't in the doghouse. I don't understand how they do things around there. I hate Gipson on his returning. I think it's over. Can we stop it? We've seen enough. We hit a 40-yard return. He looks no. For every one good play he has, there's 7 dumb-headed, boneheaded decisions, and no one seems to hold him accountable. I'm tired of Gibson. His 5 minutes of fame were up 2 years ago or last year with that one punt return. The magic's done. They keep trying to repackage this lightning in a bottle. Stop it. Try to find something that's sustainable and successful and use that. It's just it's all these little things they keep doing just bother me, because it's you're trying to recreate magic that doesn't. It was magic. It's not going to happen twice. And they do this all the time. So
I agree.
Thanks again for letting me call in.
Mike, thank you so much for the call. You've been ejected from the cockpit. Mike, always fun to have you call in. Always a good time. Boys and girls, call-in number is pinned in the live chat. I've got Bijan calling in. Bijan, how you doing?
Good. Can you hear me?
Got you loud and clear. How you feeling about our Jets?
Well, probably same as everybody else, or a lot of people. I think it's time to move on from Rodgers. I think there's too much that comes with him. There's just this lack of offensive philosophy, lack of offensive scheme. And our young players, the guys that are hopefully going to be here for the next 5 to 10 years, Garrett and Brees in particular, they're suffering. They're not getting the touches they deserve. And I do think part of today, for example, that whole Davante Adams getting his 500th TD, that's not what the priority should be. We should have an offensive scheme. We should scheme guys open. I don't think Rodgers' play allows him to run a basically no offense anymore. I've got to pinpoint throws. He just he can't do that anymore.
Now, let's say you move off of Rodgers. What's the plan at quarterback next year? Is it Tyrod and Travis just kind of tread water for a year? And how does that necessarily help Garrett and Brees' situation?
I think that's the dilemma we're all facing as Jets fans, because I don't have an answer for you either. It's like a catch-22. The young players are already pissed, but then you're right. If you get rid of Rodgers, you risk potentially even being worse or the same, so that you're going to piss off your young players that way. I don't have an answer for you. I think that's why the community is so split between keeping him and not keeping him. I don't know. I feel like there's just so much behind this Rodgers and Davante, but I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I would have said Winston a couple of weeks ago, but then he's just intercepted his way out of a job. So I don't. You're right. I have no idea. I don't know what the answer is.
I'm not sure where we go from here. There's a lot of potential routes they could go. My sort of take is I'm not going to stress one way or the other, no matter what they go, because I literally don't know what I want to do. I'm cool. I think if you bring back Rodgers, you probably have a better chance at having Garrett be happy, having some other players be happy, because they have a shot at something. And then I think you build through the draft the rest of the team, and then maybe there's a situation where you draft a quarterback in 2026, or you're just supporting Jordan Travis in 2025, 2026 if you decide you like him. I think there's more positives with going best player available than it is necessarily hitting the reset button and needing to trade away a whole bunch of players. Bijan, think you've been a little frozen? That's okay. But thank you so much for the call. You've been ejected from the cockpit. Boys and girls, call-in number is on the screen if you would like to call in. If not, I'm going to talk a little bit to the chat. We'll go for about another 10 minutes or so. We'll take this to an hour and a half. Let's see what you guys are saying in there. Dakota says, no receiver in football cuts more than Garrett Wilson does. It's annoying how many times he cuts. He even cuts when he's completely open. After he catches the ball, though, that's usually what I see. He catches it, then he tries to like dance around trying to make sure no one's try to catch the guy off bounds. Now, that being said, should be getting 1,000 yards each of his first 3 years in the NFL. Clearly, he's doing something right. And I think if he were going backwards, losing yardage, that might be a little bit more of a concern to me. Brandon says, yes, please, get rid of the turf. Everyone would be surprised. Would def win you a game or two. I just would not like to see turf anymore. That's where it comes from. Let's see. Someone said, Steve says, a broken foot is better than an ACL. I agree. I don't know. Do we know anything on Tyron yet? If anyone knows anything on Tyron, just let me, or not Tyron, sorry, Fashanu, let me know. Hopefully it's nothing too major and it's just like a, bruised foot or something and he's got to sit the rest of the year. Lazard dropped the most passes today. He's insane. Yes, I agree. I don't really want to see Lazard back. Oreo, Ryan, I don't understand how you can say you'd want to run it back with Rodgers. I don't understand your logic. He's been on the decline the last 3 years. He'll be 42 and looked washed this season. So my view of Aaron Rodgers shifted since the bye week. I feel like what we've gotten from Aaron Rodgers since our bye week has been significantly better, especially with today's game and the Seahawks game. Like those two in particular. I mean, obviously last week was the Jaguars. They're kind of a struggling team. If we play well against Buffalo, that's going to have even more of an impact in how I view Rodgers for next year. Now, if Rodgers comes out, he looks like dog shit next week and he looks like dog shit against Miami, then maybe I'm a little more tossed up in the air. But part of my logic with Rodgers coming back next year is I want to hold on to Garrett Wilson, and I think there's a really good shot if we get rid of Rodgers. I think I would offer Garrett a contract. I would say, hey, Garrett, 4 years, 120. This is what we're offering you. And then we want to lock you in. You're part of our future long term. If he says no, I'm going to play the field. I'm going to see what goes on. Then all right, it is what it is. Let him play out his 4th year. Figure out what the trade value kind of looks like. If you want to hold on to him for a 5th year after that, like let's say Rodgers is done after next season. You draft your quarterback in 2026. I still don't want to get rid of like a top player, but maybe you use Garrett as a trade chip at that point. I don't know. Look, for me, bringing Rodgers back gives me a better shot at holding on to Breece and Garrett and having everyone feel like there's something to fight for next year. If you get rid of Rodgers, I don't think there's a quarterback in this draft that's going to be appealing. I think you're more than likely running it with Tyrod Taylor and Jordan Travis, and I don't necessarily think that's the best move. I mean, sure, you might net yourself a really high draft pick. You might have some interesting games because of the mobility of both those players, but I don't know. I would not expect playoffs if Rodgers is not the quarterback here next year. I think it would be a little bit of a long shot. I think even with him here, it might be a little bit of a long shot, depending on how we, what we get out of our coaching staff and everything. So that's sort of my logic. If you look at Rodgers prior to the bye week, I would have said, hey, rip the Band-Aid off, get rid of it, take your lumps. But as weird as it sounds, my opinion has changed over the last few weeks. Curly says, the system is too good to fail, receipt boy. I would like to change the system. I think there's probably something to be said for them maybe keeping Downing and Carter because of consistency, for the offense, for Rodgers, at least for a season. I just hope we don't hold on to him if it is time to move off of them. I don't know. I could go either way on that one too. It's really like an irritating thing. I'm going to wind up putting out my mock off season since we're at that time of the year now. And I'll do a mock off season as if we keep Rodgers and a mock off season as if we don't keep Rodgers. And I'll just show you what I would do either way in either scenario. I think there's some interesting ways you could take this team, and I'm excited to dive into it. Financially, you'll have a little bit more space if you bring Rodgers and Devontae back. And then 2026, you'll eat a lot of dead cap, but you might spread it over 26 and 27 because you have so much cap space in those 2 years that it won't hurt quite so bad, even though it's a higher number overall. Stanley says Rodgers is trash. Jets playing him when he is washed is part of the problem, part of the tank. Fans deserve better. I don't necessarily think Tyrod would do better now. I think Tyrod at the beginning of the season probably would have done better. When Rodgers got hurt in that Viking game, we had the penalty, and he ultimately wound up coming back out. And I think, did he lead us on a touchdown that drive? Was that drive? Maybe it was a field goal. In the Vikings game, I was excited to see what Tyrod could potentially bring. Dakota says Garrett Wilson is being traded anyways. We have him for 2 more games before he's traded off to a real winning franchise like the Chiefs, Bills, or Ravens. I don't want to trade him in conference. If they're going to trade him in conference, you better get a hell of a lot of compensation. 2 first-round picks is the floor for me right now. I don't think you trade him for anything less than that because I do believe he is worth it. I do think the Texans are a very, very likely spot for him to end up, even though that is in conference where I wouldn't necessarily want to go. I think the Texans, having potentially lost Tank Dell for even part of next year, just sort of lines up with where they may feel they want to go. Just my thought. I think they would be more likely to give up the 2 firsts. Ed the Red, what's up, dude? He says, Merry Christmas, Ryan. And hopefully Santa will grant my wish and fix this total shit show of an organization. Sorry. Thank God the end is near with this season. Yeah, the friggin' postseason. Not even the postseason. The offseason is where we shine as Jet content creators, where we shine as a fan base. We win the offseason because we can't do anything in season. At least there's hope, right? Sell us hope in the offseason, and then we come in next year, and then we just do it all over again. Just, be eliminated by October or November. Ugh, kills me. Best option for several reasons. He does mentor, unlike Favre did, him, and still better starter than most. I would agree, Brandon. Not that I'm necessarily looking for someone to groom a quarterback right now. I think Rodgers being open to it is nice to hear. I just don't know if the quarterback I want is in this draft class, which sucks because then you go into all right, well, let's get a quarterback in 2026. And then you're just sort of sitting in a situation of do we have a quarterback to potentially groom, or are we throwing this new rookie that we draft in 2026 to the fire? I don't love that either. So I don't know. I'm not sure really which way to go. I guess you hope that Jordan Travis does well, and maybe something clicks with him. Let's see. Garrett can't go anywhere for 3 more years. I would hold on to him because I don't think his trade value gets that much worse. If his trade value right now is 2 first-round picks, I think his trade value in 2 years is still at least a first and a third. And I would be fine with having him on the team for our new young quarterback coming in than moving him earlier unless we're blown away with an offer. Let's see. We got Mike again. Oh, different Mike. What's up, Mike? How you doing, brother?
How are you?
Hanging in there. How you feeling about our Jets?
We're on the what's going on? Hi. We're on the subject of Aaron Rodgers, and all I'm thinking about is, okay, he's right now ranked 21, 22-ish. Are we going to find a quarterback that we can easily get who's better than that? Probably not, right? Probably not. And even if we did, especially if they're young, we're not going to be able to develop them as well. So if we're thinking about next year, we're gonna have to keep him. We're gonna have to keep him because we're not gonna find anything better that quickly. I just don't see it.
I'm right there with you. I do think that is probably the direction I would prefer to go. Hopefully he doesn't want to retire. I mean, he retires and it's well, I guess you kind of forced our hand. And then at that point, I feel like if you don't have Rodgers, to your point, I don't think we're getting a better quarterback. And I don't think Tyrod is necessarily a better option. I don't think Travis is necessarily a better option. But I think we'd probably roll into next year with just those 2 and maybe some third string guy. But I think that might mean Brees and Garrett are gone.
And I like Tyrod Taylor, don't get me wrong, but is he going to be – I mean, let's compare him to, is he going to be better than Geno Smith, who's 24, C.J. Stroud, who's at 26 right now? Probably not, right?
No,
if you kind of put
unlikely.
it in context of the other guys that are kind of in that, not quite starter, not quite a backup kind of territory, it just doesn't fit that well. So, Yeah, and then if we lose, I mean, losing Garrett Wilson would hurt, but I get it. I think losing some of our other big guys would hurt, but but we're rebuilding next year. That seems to be what the general consensus, right? It's like it's going to hurt, but we're going to get picks, and we're back at it another year. Here we go.
We get excited for the draft again. We want 2 lottery tickets instead of keeping a 24-year-old wide receiver. Like, just pay the man a ton of money and just keep him. Like have him till 30. Have him for 6 more years. Like, that's what I want. I don't want to give up on our talent. We don't draft good young talent very frequently. And having it just shipped off just really, it's going to piss me off because he's going to go to Houston for 2 first-round picks. We'll be like, oh, we got 2 first-round picks. And then we're going to draft fucking Zach Wilson and fucking D. Milner or something like that. And we're going to be like, I can't believe we didn't keep Garrett Wilson. And we're just going to be bitching up a storm. I see it. I know how it plays out. I've seen this done before. Mike, thank you so much for the call, brother. You have been ejected from the cockpit. Decent thoughts. I agree with him more than not. All right, let's go over to, let's see. I might have a little bit of an error on my side because it says I'm running out of disk space. So we'll see how this plays out. Let's go to Cameron real quick to round out the show. Cameron, how you doing, dude?
I mean, I got to watch a Jets game. How do you think I'm doing?
A little bit of heartburn, a little bit of sadness.
For a team that, 6 fourth-quarter leads, and then we once again blow it. It's like, what the hell?
It's just consistent with this team. If there's nothing consistent about us, it's the inconsistency of this team in the fourth quarter.
Well,
consistency
of
being inconsistent.
I'm hoping that Vrabel or whoever can instill some kind of long-term fight in this team, because I get tired of them playing really well first quarter to third, and then in the fourth, it's as though they think they have the game wrapped up, so they stop playing hard. And it's like, no, you have to play through the final whistle, not just the third quarter whistle. And Olu getting hurt is quite unfortunate. And the stuff I've heard about Garrett, hopefully they don't trade him, because I would rather have Garrett Wilson than 2 first-round picks.
Yes,
and
100%.
I'm still not over the Woody Johnson thing. I think that is a little bit...
I think it's true.
If that's true,
I do. I don't think the Madden rating. I don't think the Madden rating is true. I don't think the Madden rating is true. I think everything else is probably true. I think Woody probably said it in jest or said, he doesn't have a great Madden ranking. And that wasn't the reason why the trade was declined. But I think the rest of the Woody Johnson, Brick Johnson stuff is far too close to true. It feels like there's a lot of smoke.
It does. I mean, and I don't even think Diana Rossini is out to get the Jets. I think she's trying to report on what she hears. Even if she doesn't like Rodgers, in the end, some things... You hear it enough times, you think, okay, this has to be true. This can't just be, one person on a vendetta tour.
100%. Not to mention, it sort of aligns with where we've seen storylines go with the Jets in the past anyway. So, is it totally off base? I don't think so. I think it's
no, not at all.
Probably closer to true. Cameron, thank you so much for the call.
Have a good one, Ryan.
Ejected. Merry Christmas. Ejected from the cockpit. Boys and girls, it's been a lot of fun talking with you guys. If you haven't done so already, this stream, powered by BetUS, get 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit up to $2,000 with code YouTube150. How many games do the Jets win the rest of the way out? We lost to the Rams. We got the Bills and Dolphins left. Do the Jets find a way to get another victory before the end of the season? I think that Dolphins game is primed for a last game win for us. I appreciate you all tuning in. If you can hit that like button for me on the way out, really does mean a whole heck of a lot. Helps people discover this stream and maybe discover the channel. Maybe they want to see a little bit of off-season mock drafts, some rebuilding, some contract structures, and all that good stuff. I really appreciate you being here with me throughout the course of the season. I hope you guys have a very Merry Christmas. I will be back here tomorrow. We're doing the 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock stream because I don't have, we're not doing the Talking Jets one tomorrow. So it's going to be myself, my thoughts, and you guys. I love you all. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Jets Talk signing off. Jets.
That's a There's